Quick audio note. This is the normal sound quality of this podcast. Unfortunately, we did not get clean audio. Luckily, I had a backup audio from the camera, which actually sounds pretty good. So it's really not that bad, but I just wanted to say that this is normally how it's supposed to sound. On to the show. Welcome to the Winners and Losers Show. Hello, everybody. My name is Hank Thompson. I'm the host of the show. I'm going to be the host of the show until all the callbacks are completed and buried and set in the past where they belong. Honestly, I didn't even think I had that in me. I wasn't even hoping for that to come out. That's how I used to do the start of this show on Winners and Losers from back in the day in 2010 when I started it back at the old apartment in Chicago. I just have so many fond memories of me and my dumb comedian pals coming over and yelling at each other about stupid bullshit. Yeah, wow. It all came back just suddenly. Hello, it's me again. We're back. I'm not doing a gaming video here as I've been putting up on YouTube. This is actually a podcast or something, or an online show, or whatever this is supposed to be. I've been away as usual. That's my thing. My move is I show up for a little while. I kind of go, ugh. I'm like the weird, those stories about like this guy's been living in the woods of Connecticut for 40 years and people's Snickers bars kept going missing. Well, that's me. I'm the Snicker bar hermit. Okay, I sneak up and I scoot along at night, and I'm bald, but I'm fast, so you can't really see the glare. You just might see like a large glowing object, like just like a single eyeball chupacabra. Cyclops and Chupacabra should team up and do a buddy comedy. It's funny, and then have children and have the freakiest babies that one could imagine. But I'm the hermit who would steal in and steal dad's Playboys and mom's Snickers bars and the children's penguin toys, and then go away for a while, and only to be spoken of by those for whom my presence was somewhat noticed, perhaps even haunted, and then let go into the ether of the foggy din of your own life, your own busyness, because doing a show and doing a podcast is trying to penetrate someone's consciousness and trying to, if you really want to do it in a way that sustains, you need to enter their like routine and become part of their like a kind of not identity that's giving yourself, but something that they look to, that they rely on, that they know is going to be there. And different people have different levels of engagement with the show and with the commitment. I think at times people may have looked to something I've been making. I remember when we were doing SuckProfessor, doing our shot by shots. That's what really got us over the 7,000 mark in terms of subscribers. It was really flattering, but also an immense amount of pressure to watch Sunday night shows and then do a 3-hour podcast with 5 minutes of animation and then post it by like 11 a.m. It was a lot. That was but it was flattering. Okay, that's one of the things I'm leaning on recently is in order to sustain the idea that I should do this or I could do this. But yeah, I'm back and I'm going to talk about where I've been. I haven't gone away. I got pregnant, went to France. This is more of the same you've heard already, but we have a very new, and I've already explained some of this on Winners and Losers on my YouTube channel, which had 87 subscribers, and then it was at 86. And now it's at 85. So if anybody's listening to this, want to help a guy out, go on YouTube, find this fucking show. It's in the link in the description, and just subscribe. Who cares if you're going to use YouTube for that? But it'll help me. I need your help. I'm learning how to ask for help. I've been in we've already gone into familiar territory where Hank comes back and then he rambles about what he hopes to do and all that stuff. But there's a pattern there that is actually finally makes sense, and it finally actually has sort of a very clear answer. You have been listening to a guy struggling with autistic burnout. I'm already going to cry. Fuck! I knew I was probably going to cry. God damn it! Don't do it. Yeah. I'm autistic. That's what's been happening in my life. I didn't become autistic recently. I was born autismistic. I was 3D printed with extra wiring, extra mental faculty, perhaps some of the good faculties, perhaps some of the not so good. And the terms good is not actually appropriate for describing autistic symptoms or behaviors in that way. But yeah, I've already talked about this on one of my Valheim gaming rambles. I really love doing those because it's nice for me to be distracted by the game and then kind of let the thoughts sort of flow out as they sort of play this fun game that has a lot of adventuring, really beautiful graphics, upgraded my graphics processor, and building stuff, which is like woodworking is just like perfect for my 3D spatializing, visualizing brain. So I really encourage people to go check this out. But it's a different flavor of watching something. Who wants to watch a fucking guy ramble for like 2 or 3 hours about socialism and autism? Those are the two topics I care about most. Okay. So you're starting to get distracted. But yeah, so I'm going to say some of the same stuff that I said in that one. That's why I'm kind of giving you a heads up. But freaking complete surprise. I have been struggling in life. I've always struggled to have friends, to make connections with people, to sustain friendships. I've had a few friendships here and there that lasted beyond like a gentle, dalliance, perhaps. But I've never been one to connect with groups to feel like I've belonged or fit in. That is one of the hallmarks of an autistic person is the social, you might say social dysregulation, social incongruency with the world, of friction. Much of my traits of, geez, I'm starting to jump ahead. So what is it? What is autism? You probably don't know. Maybe you do know. You might know somebody who has autism. You might even know somebody who has a profile of an autistic profile that seems very different than me. And that's probably might be even a little confusing for you. I still kind of, when I first discovered it, I immediately grasped like 85% of the concepts. 85, like I was just like, oh yeah, holy shit, yeah, that's right. And I'll tell you how I found out too. But there are a couple of them that has been somewhat not challenge. Yeah, challenging is the right word, but has taken me some time to get my head around. And I'm still doing that. I think it's I've only been aware of this for about a year, maybe less than a year, quite really. Yeah, but so it's a long kind of adapting process to internalize this stuff. I really wish I had known when I was a kid. Not knowing fucked me up really bad, especially the kind of career choices I've made, doing heavily emotionally fraught things like comedy and such, and then like getting involved in digital progressive media and all that sort of thing, where my work experiences weren't. On some of the day-to-day was okay, but there's also some really stressful things happening regarding the Young Turks that are partly why I'm actually hoping people are willing to come support me. So I've patreon.com/winners and losers. I'll get to talking about that in a second here. I know I'm starting to fly around in all my different different threads here. So let me see. So yeah, I've also injured myself. I'm not sure if you've noticed I'm wearing wrist braces. I think that was already a thing last fall or last summer when I did a few episodes. My wrists are not better. I've been trying to do some stuff at home. Actually, I've been doing a lot of these things, a lot of these hand grippy thingies. Look how strong I am. Look at this. Look at this. Can you look at that? Look at that. I got one of these ones that's got the individual button thingies. Maybe a tuba player might work their fingers out. So I've been doing those. Actually, I think they're helping a lot. But I need rehab. I need some kind of professional intervention to bring my wrists back. So, cartilage damage, something related to vibrating tools. I really fucked up my wrists, both of them really, when I did I'm trying to do like videos of my workspace. I've already filmed. I haven't edited yet. So stuff I want to do on Patreon. Of course, I'm running the risk of overdoing things and overcommitting and overpromising, and that's going to be one of my downfalls. So I really if I can just do 2 episodes a week, including one online, one on Libsyn, and then like one on Patreon, which I'm going to be calling the Unemployable Show. That should be enough. I hope that's enough. It should. There's no way I could keep up with cranking out videos and cranking out edited content, and so yeah. All right. Sorry, I'm flying all over the place here. What is autism? In short, my 2-sentence summary is it's a neurological disorder that affects the way people process sensory and social information. That's a rough kind of go at it. One of the ways to think about it is at least for me, and I'm one of the reasons I'm kind of trying to be careful here is I don't want to be supposing to speak for other autistics or for the autistic community in general, besides advocating for respecting and for being patient and all that. And so I feel like as someone who's doing a show and doing a podcast, I have an obligation to honor other people's experiences by educating myself more thoroughly. So let me just put that out there. It has immense effects. It's prevalent. It's a prevalent condition. It's not something that you cure. It's not an illness. It is, as the kind of line I've settled on is like, it's as baked in as the shape of your nose or the number of fingers on your hand. So it's core to who you are. You can think of it as like, and again, this could be wrong, but it could be, it's sort of like overwired. Like there's too much, it generally comes with, autistic traits can often be spiky. That's one of the interesting things about it is that you'll see one person's autism reflected in a certain kind of behavior or a certain sort of trait or an emotional disposition or something like that, and another person who has autism. See, that's also sort of language that some might be cautious about. Another person who is autistic might not show those behaviors. One of my spiky traits, and I think this is weird, I'm not even sure this is necessarily autism, except that it's my entire being. So it's how my nerves and how my brain and how everything about me is wired up, is that I'm actually, like a lot of autistic people have motor coordination issues, or just kind of generally a little bit clumsy. I'm like the opposite of that. I was a kid, I was like a fucking throwing spirals, and I remember throwing baseballs and having like a better arm than my brothers. My brothers are plenty athletic or whatever, but I was always like very fucking just coordinated. I have a decent sense of rhythm. Doing my woodworking job, it's a clumsiness is a really bad trait for a woodworker, and I'm not at all. And so like, I've always been very like, just like, I think I could have been a professional athlete. I'm still bitter about my parents not getting me to t-ball practice because I was the best t-ball player those coaches had ever seen. They still talk about me, the one that got away. Old General Hanky Panky with the t-ball skills. God, I was so good. So autism is manifests in. Well, here's the way to think about it. I want to write a book. I want to write a book called "Ow, My Autism." I'm not going to push too hard, like dive headfirst into that, but actually kind of put the first chapter of it up on this. I wouldn't know if I'd call this the first chapter, but this is at least the first step towards it onto patreon.com/winners and losers. I finally wrote a thing up about the stuff I want to be offering. There's a picture of my woodworking shop. If you're curious, it's on a balcony. It's a photo from inside. All the sort of ideas I want to do to produce my own Patreon supplies. But then I get into my bio here and I sort of talk about where I was, mention some of the Young Turks, and then I went with the squirrel metaphor, which honestly I'm not sure how great that is. But I talk a lot about autism here, about learning I was autistic, and about the moment in my life when it was like finding, here's the picture of the broom and the paddle. It's like I've been kayaking with a broom, like not knowing, having no idea, and then discovering a paddle. And now I'm like trying to like put my life on its own footing. And it ends, this piece I wrote is about why I can't work for other people and why functioning in the regular world is really difficult for me. My light sensitivities I've always been sensitive to noise and light, but these last year or two, especially, I'm overwhelmed. I've got this blue light here right now. I actually hooked up this other light here that fucks me up real bad. That's so intense. That would bother anybody, honestly. Let me put a bag over it, see if that helps a lot. Just to diffuse. That's not so bad. It's still kind of bright right there. But doing this podcasting thing, like I could turn off all these lights and kind of settle in. That's one reason I like doing the gaming videos. But I've been melting down. I've been having severe problems. And I think one reason my beard is falling out is you've been watching, is I've been melting. This side is really bad. Obviously just shave it all off. But I gotta get thinner. I hate it. I don't want to fucking shave. I'm really mad that my beard's going. I think that's a steep price to pay for whatever crime I committed. So it's been a really messy life. I've always struggled with employment, with not doing good work, but like finding work and getting jobs. Other than that's, I ran an aquarium thing for like 9 or 10 years before I moved to LA. So that solved that, meaning I had a job, I had my own thing, and I need to have my own thing. I need autonomy. I'm not going to go down. That's just another side. There's a thing called pathological demand avoidance, which I think I probably am of that flavor. For people who just really, really bristle at the concepts of having another motherfucker tell you what to do. It just makes me kind of crazy. I mean, if it comes with some respect, maybe some money or something, it's different. And I'm not necessarily even against getting another job, but I'm in a major hole in my life. I've really fallen into this deep, dark hole. I don't have any income. My wrists make it impossible for me to do manual labor. I think it would be almost impossible for me to function out in the world. I go out and I picked up lunch the other day from my roommate and I. It's cheaper for him to buy me a Chipotle than it is for him to have Chipotle delivered. So we work it out, and I go get it. And I walked in, I was just like, my head was fucking cooked just being around all that stimulation, being around. And it's a pleasant day, and it wasn't even I didn't get in any fights or anything like that. It was just like an overstimulating experience just to be out in the world on a sunny day. But I don't want this to lead me down towards just really becoming a indoor hermit, but I have to control my space. I have to be able to control my environment. And autistic people face a lot of difficulty. The unemployment rate for autistic people is 85%. And that's not just the folks who have high support needs. The ones you're picturing, the ones you're like, oh, Hank's not like that. Why would it? So another word you might... this word is not diagnosed anymore, and I'm not trying to like take it away from those who were diagnosed. It's like Asperger's, which is a thing. That was a differentiation of the autistics, starting from a Nazi doctor named Hans Asperger, who it seems like sort of identified the autistics who were more capable of being used, of doing things, and of still like showing up and producing for the masters. They would just murder and kill the others. So so there's, I don't want to say gradations. That's actually not accurate at all. In fact, I was going to bring up that one article. But anyway, God, I'm going so fast here. So learning I was autistic, let's get back to that. So in recent months or years, and I just haven't been able to sustain doing this show or putting things online or really functioning well at all. And access to money, I'm living on a dwindling workers' comp payout, and that my roommate is okay with me taking on rent debt to him. He trusts that I will do enough podcasting to somehow pay for it. I don't know why he won't kick me out. He should. I don't deserve a home. I am not producing money for capitalists, and therefore I don't deserve to live. I don't deserve a home. I could move home with my dad, and would, not that he would cause me to go crazy, but just having to move home with my parents at age 43 would be devastating to me. So, it's the most important thing that ever happened to me. This is also why I'm unemployable, is because my emotions are close to my my surface. I'm not able to really keep them under. Not that I was keeping them under on purpose, like with intention before. I was masking. This one of the concepts in that 15% of the ideas that has taken me a little bit more time to wrap my head around is this trauma response that young children who are autistic develop at early ages to kind of sacrifice their own authenticity and their own comfort and their own sense of self in order to replace it with a version that makes others feel more comfortable. It's a way to ameliorate the stress and the pain of being socially incongruous. So when I learned, I had never. I should have outlined all this, but I'm also going to talk about this cat that I got. If anybody needs a cat, you live in Los Angeles, fucking hit me up. I have a wonderful cat. She was a stray. Seriously, honestly, find me on Twitter, send me an email or something. and fucking help me with this cat. Or if you know how to get rid of a cat and you have a place that will help, I need to get rid of this cat. I love her to death, but I'm not a cat guy. I'm not a cat guy. I need my world, as I was saying, I need my space safe, not safe. She's not dangerous, but like, although her nails, I got to get her nails clipped. It's just, I have no money. So it's irresponsible to have this cat. My roommate and I decided to take her in. I owe him money for the vet bills and some supplies and stuff. I need to get rid of this cat. I need all my variables as controlled as possible. And having a cat living in your room is like having a cellmate. It's like I don't have, but it's also a ninja who wants love and has razor sharp arms. She's so sweet. She's a wonderful cat, but mother, God damn it, I got to get rid of this fucking cat. I'm at my wit's end with this cat. I just want the space to myself. Particularly because I need to make these videos. I need to work on this stuff. The only thing I can do right now in my life that has any hope of allowing me to have a future and some independence where I'm not going to become a ward of the state or of my parents is podcasting, is what I've always kind of done, is do this comedian shit into a camera on the internet, into a microphone. The thing I've struggled to do, but I'm drawn to do it. I think that's when I first began doing stand-up in 2009. It took, I wasn't like amazed. I wasn't a whiz kid at it or something. I was, I think I'm built for comedy. I think I have a brain for comedy for sure. My excessive empathy helps me understand other people's perspectives, which gives me a sense of how humor can work and how the jokes might be received, and think of different ways of approaching ideas and topics. And there's probably a lot of neurodivergent people who are in comedy, and there's probably a lot of undiagnosed autistics. I wouldn't be surprised, at least at a higher rate, perhaps, than your group of Miller Lite swilling accountants. So the let's see, going on about the cat, going on. See, now here goes the ADHD. I'm very sure I have ADHD too. That's it's comorbid with autism at 50 to 70%. Damn it. I was going on there about something. Oh, the only thing I can do is this, and to try to get, and I want to build it out. I want to get guests eventually. I've lost touch with all my comedy friends. I'm still friends with I'm still friends with a couple of people, but I'm not like, I don't have friends. I haven't been invited to do anything social in years. And I want to get back to being invited to do stuff. So I feel stressed about having to say no because it's too overwhelming for me. I haven't dated in a while. It's been years since I've had sex. It's just been, spiraling out. And I've always had this major kind of loser complex, sort of like this self-esteem issues, and like wondering what the fuck. Like there's even a time, and it's multiple times, where I wondered, like, am I a sociopath? Like, what's wrong with, what kind of, like, I wasn't necessarily looking for the missing key. I just had sort of accepted that I was a depressive guy. Although in the recent 4 or 5 years, my depression has shifted to like the second layer, replaced by anxiety. So like my kind of mental construct has went from depression dominant to anxiety dominant. Still with lots of depression. I don't even know what it feels like to feel like normal and okay. And this light is honestly driving me. I got another plastic bag here. This one's a Del Taco. Oh no, Yogurt Land. How the fuck did I get a Yogurt Land bag? Fuck off, corporations. This plastic is going to ruin us all. That's a little better. Is it even doing anything? Geez, there goes the distraction. It's gone. Oh, what I can do with my life and why I'm trying to do this show. And it's fun. That's one of the main reasons I'm drawn to it. That's what I was getting at about comedy, about doing stand-up. Is that stand-up was like I'd been drowning in the world of having to kind of pretend. Masking is not pretending, but not exhibiting my authentic traits. And one of the things is stand-up, and you don't necessarily do this right away. In fact, it's almost impossible. Especially since I was a stand-up, I didn't have any stage experience besides being in the starring role in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when I was 7 at the local community children's theater. So learning to be on stage took longer than, like, some people are like, I have my band. I've been in a band forever. Or, yeah, I'm a theater kid, but now I'm doing stand-up. Or I come from improv. Now I'm doing stand-up. It's like, no, I didn't do shit, man. I just was getting tired of feeling weird at parties. I've always felt so bored and overwhelmed at most parties. Music has always been too loud. uh, but stand up is where like you get to say what you want. You have so much freedom on stage. It comes with a lot of bullshit in terms of the politics of the scene and all that nonsense. But the goal is to be authentic, is to be who you are. And I am now in a stage where, as a podcaster and a comedian who calls himself a comedian, I used to joke that the reason I call myself a comedian is because it just explains why I'm weird. I've always been weird. I've always been a little bit oddball. I've always struggled to fit into a group. I never really have. The best group I've ever fit into, or the only group really, was the stand-up community in Chicago with my little my little crew of, well, that sounds really weird to say, call it a crew, but the people you kind of roll with, that you kind of get along with, and then the sort of these blending circles of what's the word when you talk about how there's groups of people at high school that make it uncomfortable, the social layers and whatever. There's a word for that. It starts with a C. No idea. So this effort to do shows and to do podcasting and I want to make more like thorough and like professionally edited and produced anti-capitalist content too. That's biting off a lot, but supporting me on Patreon will actually help me do that. I need to get the basics down first, where I can afford to buy new shoes. My toe is sticking out of one of my shoes now, and I need to get another pair. So this is also the same thing as stand-up in that sense, that I can be authentic. I can put myself. It sucks that I have to put it on the internet where all the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz have all reproduced and have been irradiated by the same gamma ray that turned Dr. Manhattan into the blue penis monster of Mars, and all the ways that the internet is just this terrifying place for oversensitive people like myself. I know the beard, if things work out, like one sign of success, I remember hearing this guy, he had a craft beer business, and I guess he said he knew he was finally reaching success when he saw one of his bottle caps in the gutter. That is actually the perfect capitalist thing too. It's like, yep, now that I'm pollution, I've finally arrived. Now that I have become pollution. But it made sense. I understood what he was getting at. For me, it's making fun of my face. If for me to reach the point of comforts where like I'm in taking enough money from an audience, I will know I've made it when mean people on the internet are making fun of the guy whose beard is falling out for having fucked up facial hair. So a boy can dream, can he? Yeah. So life has always been strange, and I'm kind of off-putting, and I can be intense. I can be a little, unaware, but often unaware that I'm doing that, or hyper aware too. I have this thing where I'm like annoyingly hyper aware of myself and my thoughts and my feelings. And it's the moment I wake up, my head starts cranking out crazy thoughts. I will spin myself up into emotional turmoil, imagining a conversation with somebody. Could be my father, could be my mother, could be my real daddy, Barack Obama, or even, I always use him as an example. He's just a famous guy who's been in my brain since he, was that Illinois senator. But my mind has this like, I think of it as like caging tigers. So one of the hallmarks of autistic people, I feel confident saying that this is a generality, but as one that almost all would share, I would imagine, is energy management, energy depletion, being exhausted by just getting by doing regular stuff. Shit is just harder for folks who are autistic. Especially the regular ass bullshit that neurotypical people like to do, like small talk. I've always been like weirdly bothered and irritated, although you don't show it. That's what the masking is. I can be incredibly charming. I can be a very, very I remember as a kid, my dad always made me and my brothers go around and say hello and say goodbye to people. Like when we went to, things where there were multiple people around, he made sure that he forced us to do that. And I feel grateful for that, because it makes me like, I have a nature where I can be very, I don't know if gregarious is the right phrase, but I can engage strangers fairly well. Partly that's why mine was never detected or looked for as a kid. They weren't looking for it in the early 80s, or the early 70s, or, I was a kid in the early 80s, born in 1979, late 1979. So I did have symptoms, though. Or did have signs of it. I did show indicators as a kid. My mother, said that weird. My mother always told the story of me being so adorable. I was so cute. Oh, you were the cutest little baby boy. You were just so an angel. You were so cute. She's like, Mom, I'm in my 40s. Can we cut with how cute I was as a fucking baby? Have you seen me naked? I'm not cute. Trust me. Starting to get those weird skin things that old people get. Not like the lesions, but, where you can just tell you're like, oh, that's not youthful skin anymore. But she had this whole story about how I was speaking full sentences before other children were. And I was so cute. I was using, like, not just before other kids were barely communicating, I was like using complete sentences intelligently. Now, that doesn't mean your child has autism if that's the case, but that's an indicator of a spiky trait of some sort. And it's actually called hyperlexia, somewhat common. So my autistic profile, actually, I am going to pull up that. I can edit this out if it's, let me get it on the other one here. I'll just drag it over, since we'll just leave it on screen. Okay. So this is Neuroclasticcom, and the title is Autism is a Spectrum, Doesn't Mean What You Think. So if you want to Google that, I'll also put a link in the description. This is a great intro for people who want to learn about it. That gets into some of the ways that the spectrum is misunderstood, and the way that you end up with people who have highly variable compared to each other, but no less powerfully dominant over themselves. So I'm of the kind of higher empathy kind of version. I know there's a certain rates of percentages for that, and the strong language kind of skills. But I have much of the other, versions of. I don't have the neuromotor. That's just the phrase they're using. I'm not clumsy at all. I'm quite sturdy, as I was saying. I would have been so good at sex if I was just a regular. I really I should have taken dancing class. Becoming a professional. See, there goes the thought. Okay, sorry. If you want to die of every STD in the world, be a hot guy who's a dancer. That's just my advice. Okay, follow that advice. It's good. It's good advice. So, like, my skills are sort of set from autistic. My autistic abilities are like hyper focus and hyper. I think all my creativity sources from it too. My use of language, the way I process people's words and languages. I had a girlfriend. I've only had 1.5 maybe girlfriends in my life. One was a 2-year relationship. She actually got in touch with me during the pandemic, and we're buddies now, which is honestly fucking great. That was like one of the few bright spots in my last couple of years. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. She's such a sweet person, and we had broken up. I dumped her. It was devastating, but I had to end it. And man, she's a good person. So it's wonderful to be able to keep in touch with her. And a couple like that were sort of girlfriendy, but none of the normal shit. I've always just sort of struggled with all those things, and I still am not unsure how I'm going to end up finding somebody. And I know that I hope I will. I want to, but it's not. It doesn't preclude me from dating. But I'm like, do I need to disclose it? I don't have any money anyway. Who wants to bang a guy whose beard is falling out? That's like petting a dog who's got beard loss. Why would you be mean to that dog? That's a sweet dog. But people instinctively react to like patchy hair with like unless that's a kink, which, let's be honest, I don't really want to get with someone for whom that's a kink. Where the fuck do you get that from? So, wait, what are you working at the mannequin factory in the head department? Is that where you get that kink? Yeah, all signs point to me being autistic. And you might say this is a thing I saw on it was a Reddit post, but that someone might describe me as being mildly autistic. That's partly what this article kind of addresses in terms of what people think when they think of a linear spectrum is that there's like here, this how people think the spectrum looks. And like, it's like a faded on the left. It says a little quirky. It's a red bar. And then in the middle, it's a bit more intense, definitely autistic. And then on the other side, it's tragic autistic. And the following paragraph is, in fact, one of the distinguishing features of autism in what the DSM-5 calls an uneven call. Jesus Christ, let me start over. In fact, one of the distinguishing features of autism is what the DSM-5 calls an, quote unquote, uneven profile of abilities. There's a reason people like to say that if you have met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Every autistic person presents slightly differently. I've kind of settled into using the word profile. I feel like that kind of gives space for understanding, or you might even think like a video game loadout, like a video game character, like the traits are sort of, your intelligence, your faith, that's your healer trait, your strength, obviously agility. We all know that's for ranged attacks. Those sorts of things for me are like I think I have the high intelligence. I've described it as, I don't mean it in like I'm good at doing anything. I've always felt very stupid. I'm not smart. I'm intelligent. Like I just have a fast brain, or a hyper-threaded brain kind of thing. I kind of, this would be a chapter in the book, maybe a chapter title is, I'm not intelligent. I'm just dumb faster. Most dumb people are really slow. They're kind of slow dummies, they're just, and then they come up with their dumbassness. I'm like a hyper dumb. I'm like warp speed dumb. It's because my life doesn't reflect anything a smart person would be doing. But it's I don't like talking about the intelligence thing because it feels like there's straying into the arrogance territory. But that's very much like, if I was to act like, no, I don't think I'm above average, especially this fucking rotten ass culture where you don't train anybody. Nobody develops their full potential. We all got lead poisoning. We all got microplastics for all kinds of reasons. No, people are people's potential is repressed, oppressed, some word there, depressed, subjugated to becoming a useful worker for the masses. So, I'm flying around the place. I'll just keep going. Doing this is how I'm hoping to make my stand in my life, and to get some footing. I need your help. I need people to help me, and I'm learning to call myself disabled. It's, aside from the fact that my wrists are fucking wrecked right now, that's pretty disabling. I've really had an education in the last year about the concept of disability, a much broader grouping than simply saying autistics. Some people might call autism an intellectual disability, or if not an outright disability. I don't think that's worth fighting and arguing about with too much, or at least not in a bad faith kind of way. I think in a good faith, there's plenty of reasons to parse out those concepts. But the fundamental challenge for autistics is, that's what I was getting at, the mild thing, is that someone like myself is expected to function and produce and be a subject of capitalism just like everybody else, except that the way my energy system works and the way my need to, I keep saying the word control, but that is my need to be autonomous with my sensory problems, with all these lights. This light is, I'm going to kill it. Let's just keep the blue. Oh, that's right. It goes into different levels. That's not so bad. I don't know. It's probably not doing anything. Is paramount to me. And so getting out in the world and becoming, just doing a regular thing. I'm funny. I'm a good comedian. I was a pretty good comedian and doing stand-up, and I'm quick and all that other shit. But I couldn't do the networking stuff. I could drink and get drunk, and I had friends, and I got along with people, but I couldn't do networking. And the networking that you need to do in LA to do anything well here is just like absolutely not at all my skill. That's another reason I know I'm unemployable. I don't think I could get the job to start out with. My resume sucks ass. It's got Cenk Uygur and Jimmy Dore on it. I don't know. Not that those are necessarily bad for jobs, but like there might even be some reasons why someone might be interested in terms of like, oh really? Okay, let's talk about that. But like I've had major gaps in employment. I've done some freelance things. I have some professional contacts. Almost every professional contact I got through the Young Turks was torched from the union busting stuff and from me putting out information about that union busting. And I'm still willing to burn those bridges because there's more information that needs to come out about the Young Turks employment practices and in the union busting. They have not done any reporting on it at all. So that's another reason you should go to patreon.com/winners and losers. If you want to help me tell that story, that's a way to do it. That's a way to do it. Please go there. I know it's ridiculous to be asking for money right off the bat. So I'm really only hoping that maybe someone who's been following me for some years, and if you have the means, you want to help out a guy who is looking for, I don't have any other options. So digital begging, but I'm going to try to put stuff out and to do this show and do it regularly, or not every day, but like I've done a lot of work on my background. I have a bunch of sauce. I'm going to do a thing about sriracha. There's a sriracha shortage going on. Hey, go capitalism. But all sorts of other content that I'd like to include at some point. Plus Bum Rush Industries, you'd be helping out with the woodworking thing, sort of folding that into it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing like politics and daily video, or not daily, but like videos of like, oh, look at this, John. I do want to. I see stuff all the time on Twitter that I'm like, okay, I could do that about Jon Stewart talking to Larry Summers and get into that. But tracking daily news and daily politics is just killing me, man. It's just too much. It's like, what am I doing? Hurting myself, ingesting all this horrors when my life is sort of not at all in a place where I'm stable enough to take in all that crap. So do I do it? Yeah, of course. I still do it. But I've been reading books. I've been actually finished a book already this year. The first book of the Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin, which is freaking great. Such a great story. I'm going to write down a time code to try to put a thing on screen for that. And I've actually started another book called Slavery by Another Name, which is really interesting and horrifying and fascinating. And I've started the second book of the N.K. Jemisin series. She won a Hugo Award. It's a sci-fi thing. And she's written a lot of other books too. Very easy to read, but fascinating stuff. I highly recommend it. It's the Broken Earth trilogy. So there you go. There's book talk. I'm flying all over the place. Sorry. Hang with me. Patreon.com/winners and losers. And eventually I'll get ADHD medicine, maybe. That might be kind of cool. Although I hear there's an Adderall shortage. Not that I'm just trying to get some Adderall, but so my autistic profile is sort of tailor-made to do independent content production. This is the thing I could do, is I get more comfortable with the camera, more comfortable doing this, getting some guests, hopefully going on other shows. I would love to go on shows and talk about Young Turks union busting. I know there's a lot of lack of knowledge about that whole story, and I was very much a part of all that. So like that would be interesting, I think. Yeah, but also just to share my hot takes, say stuff like, yeah, Donald Trump, man, these fucking white assholes. Look at them again, thinking they can get away with anything they want. Yeah, I have just all kinds of crap to talk about and get into. So what the hell was I going to say? Oh, learning. The moment I learned was the most important thing to happen in my life. No, I'm not going to though. But I had no idea. I had not thought about autism in decades. It didn't for a single shred of a second occur to me that I might be. If I had, I probably would have looked it up and read a couple articles and been like, oh my God, I am. It seems so obvious to me now. How the fuck did nobody tell me? Because I've avoided people in my life because of the autism. So I was on TikTok. I know there's like an eye roll moment for people that are thinking that TikTok is getting people to realize they're and I had been seeing the algorithm starts feeding you stuff, and I'd seen people talking about neurodivergence, and I've always been, like I said, I've always had depression and anxiety and overthinking and issues socially. Just kind of had resigned to knowing that I was kind of a goofy weirdo. If I could end up in a woodworking, like my dream is to move out of LA and have like a house with a building with like an outbuilding I could turn into a woodworking shop that I could also produce videos at, where I could talk while doing the videos too, because I get really self-conscious being out on my balcony. I just skip past it. And to control the space to make it really beautiful, as I called it in my article, a meditative sanctuary. I don't want to just have like a cluttered nightmare, although I live in a kind of a cluttered nightmare of a room. I'm trying to, that's another part of my helping myself by keeping organized and keeping my space clean and whatnot. So I see the word neurodivergent and I'm like, yeah, I've heard of that, but I don't really know what that is. I mean, yeah, I took vocab class twice in college because I loved it so much because I was autistic, probably a reason, or one of those my autism moments. And, it means brain wiring something, and Divergent means an award-winning series starring Shailene Woodley, the Divergent movie series. So it was like different Shailene Woodleys. I knew what that meant. Those are good shows, by the way. Really great. No, there's some nice moments. I like any teen dystopia, as long as it's not about love and stupid shit like that. But no, Divergent, differences. So brain differences, something or other. But I don't really know what it is. Let me just Google it. I'm in bed. I'm on my phone. I should have been out doing Postmates or something, or making money for a capitalist somehow, but I was in bed. And it's pretty straightforward. What it means is the concept that instead of saying someone who has mental illness is broken or something's wrong with them, you say that their brain works differently. If you think that is like asking for too much societal change, then you are a piece of shit and you need to grow the fuck up. It's okay for these concepts to evolve over time into ways that are that fit better into more closely to the way we need to start respecting humans and to produce a planet that is sustainable for everybody. If we're still using the same language to describe mental illness in the 50s that we are now, we're not progressing at all. The society is not one that's really built on progress because progress is threatening to profits. But in some areas we are progressing in things like, mental illness awareness, mental issues, how brains work and how some people's brains work differently. And it's all encompassing. It encompasses bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, and all the other kind of conditions that you can imagine are reflective of someone whose brain might not be typical. So there's the two sort of concepts, neurodivergent and neurotypical. Neurotypical people can have all kinds of issues themselves. This doesn't at all exclude them from mental problems or from difficulties at times. There's been research actually showing that brain scan kind of research where they show neurotypical brains show activity roughly the same intensity and in roughly the same spot. Autistic, then this is an autism study that showed that they did a similar study for autistic brains and showed more activity by measurable, like by substantial amounts more, and in non-discernible patterns. So if one autistic person is the next, the activity will be elevated, but not like, oh, it's just the autistics are over in this quadrant and the neurotypicals are over in this quadrant. It's not like that. It's like the autistics are like a whole different kind of heat map of activity that can vary widely. And that's why, if you can wrap your head around that idea, if you accept the notion that your brain is sort of the core of your body and your behavior and how you respond and how your physical motor works and how your emotional engine works and all the other things that are connected to it, which is literally everything, why someone like myself is labeled autistic, just like someone who has who's nonverbal or struggles with verbal or has motor issues that are apparent and profound. Those are the autistic profiles that are easier to detect. The more obvious format, that's not the right word. The more obvious profiles are the ones that they noticed in childhood. And that's what I had assumed it was. Not that I had assumed for good reasons. I just had internalized ambiently from the culture that autism was this thing that I didn't necessarily assume it was just white boys, but I'd picture a white kid who I thought was a big problem for his family, was probably really difficult to be around because I'm uncomfortable around disabled people because of my ableism. which is very much a reason. That's not unique to me. And I'm saying that straight up because that's the honest truth. And learning to feel more comfort. And that's a major part of disability, advocacy and disability. Its perception in the culture is related to how comfortable others feel around them. And which is why you might think I have mild, like people would say, like, oh, you're not severe. This is kind of what that article was getting at about the severe thing. And like, oh, you're just a little, or you have mild version of it. And like, it's like, you don't have severe autism. You're not like that one of those other people. You're not one of those that we'd say high support needs autistic. And I would agree, but I wouldn't agree that it's mild. The reason it seems mild to you, it's hard to point with this microphone in my face. The reason it seems mild to you is because you experience it mildly. This is a point someone on Reddit made that I just, it hit with it was one of those things where you go, oh yeah, that it really just perfect encapsulation. You would think I have mild autism because it's mild to you, because I can make a joke. I can say something funny. I can keep my mouth shut. I can not do anything. I can make you feel comfortable. I can turn my vast antenna of social awareness, even though I'm oblivious to the boundaries, to you, so that and I've dedicated my whole being to making sure that you're comfortable around me, even though I still fail at that constantly because it's not mild. It's not mild at all. I would never describe how I am and feel as like a mild of it at all. Relatively speaking to others' perception, I can understand why that word might come up, but it is not fucking mild. This thing is in full command, especially recently because of the mask has gone away. Basically, I'm trying to encourage it to not come back too. And it won't. I don't think it really can. But I've been masking since I was a kid, still struggling without knowing. But in the last several years, as things have gotten harder and things have gotten weird and my sensitivities have increased, like this light, I can actually kill it by a little bit. That's the mask going away. That's the mask kind of relenting to the pileup of stress. And I had a lot of issues with my mother and her own stress and stuff. And she used me as a therapist for a long time because I'm sensitive and I care. And I thought I was being a good son and I was supporting her and all the other stuff that my troubled mother needed help with. There was a coma thing. She was bipolar. There was some other stuff that had gone down that were like nuclear bombs going off and stuff that would stress out anybody, not just me. But I have the kind of mind that takes those that stuff in, that giant burst of gamma rays, and magnifies it and then plays with it and sets it away for a little while, then comes back to it. The imagination gets a hold of it, and my imagination produces emotions in me. That's why I can talk myself into being angry or upset or crying or some other sort of heavy feeling just by imagining it. It's what makes me, I think, what I would be a really good comedy writer, honestly. Like someone writing movies or shows or comedy shit, or not even necessarily comedy, but like it gives me skills for being a good video editor and to being good at telling stories. I always try not to say I'm a storyteller, but I'm doing a terrible job at that today. I'm just rambling here, and I know I'm jumping all over the place. There's so many different facets to cover. But supporting me, helping me out with some financial assistance, and I'm going to work on getting out rewards at some point, will hopefully allow me to tell some of these stories with more clarity and more accuracy. And don't worry, it's not going to become an autism podcast, although I might end up getting some guests on to talk about it at some point too. And I will mention it again, but again, I know it makes people uncomfortable. I've told some friends, I've brought it up, and most people, like my neighbor who's a buddy, I told her, I'd call we're definitely friends, but we're not like, the friend we're she's a wonderful person. But I told her she gave me a hug. She's like, this is so good. Oh my God. Now I'm crying about that. It was really sweet. But one other person I'm thinking of, and I don't fault this person at all, but I could tell I felt her discomfort almost right away. And that's okay. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is, because what are you supposed to say? How are you supposed to respond? I don't know what you're supposed to say. I wouldn't know how I would have taken it in the past. If someone was like, I'm autistic, I would have been like, oh, wow, that's all right. High five, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. So like what I've kind of settled into for that, if I do tell somebody, is like, I think it's good to invite their curiosity. I'm comfortable talking about it. I'm comfortable if they were to ask me questions. I've always been a very direct communicator. That's another thing that autistic people do that is, makes autistic people get along well with each other, but makes it harder for those who aren't. And the rate is actually, I've seen 1 in 44 and 1 in 48. So, 1 in 50 is 2%, right? So 1 in 50 people is 2%. So if it's 44, 40, so it's 2 to 3% of the population is autistic. That's a lot of people. That's millions and millions of people. It's a small percentage for sure. And that's why I think the friendships I have had, or the relationships I've had, although that one girl I did mention her before, she's definitely not. She's very creative in her own way, but not autistic at all. Is probably I was connecting with other people along the ASD spectrum somewhere. So shit, I just lost some threads there. I know I'm jumping around. Yeah, so it's not a mild. Oh, how are you supposed to respond? So I want to invite curiosity. Even if you guys, if someone's hearing this, want to send me an email or send me a message or something. I think I have winners and losers podcast at gmail.com. Ask questions or something. I mean, I don't know. Not that I'm going to like do all your research for you. Go ahead and Google some stuff. There's lots of great threads on Reddit. There's lots of interesting stuff on Reddit. There's lots of books. There's lots of stuff. But so, I might not just be like, oh yeah, here you go. But or just a word of support would be cool too. Whatever. I don't know. But when I meet somebody in person, if I'm going to tell them I'm autistic, I'll be like, you can ask me about it. Like, you won't cross a line. You can't really offend me. It's kind of hard to offend me in that way. Because I would prefer that. But I'm asking you to do something that you do well, which is be very direct. That's what another word is, holistics for neurotypicals or for non-autistic people, I think. The masking thing, and then I'll get back to the learning story, because that's like the big scene in the movie. The masking is kind of like this, because everybody masks. Everybody. When you go to work, you're different than you are at home. We all understand that. When you go see your grandma at grandma's house, you're kind of different than you are. And some people might do it a lot less than others, but everybody does a version of that. So, but that's not the same as autistic masking. It's not. Autistic masking is like far more rooted in like subconscious trauma. Okay. Even like leading to people making decisions on their whole life. When I've read articles or read pieces by people who kind of like myself were older autistics who didn't know and then found out at some point that their whole life had been built around a person who was different than their own authentic self. I think that's, like I was saying, like why stand-up was such a wonderful thing for me and why I kind of grieve that I stopped doing it, because I really feel like that's a place for me that's healthy. And doing comedy is kind of like, you get to be an authentic person. You get to let your weird flag fly a lot, So one way to think of masking, and this is sort of a notion I would put in the book, is since you're masking, you're masking. Let's just assume you're neurotypical. 43 out of 44, 49 out of 50 are neurotypical. And actually, one of the points that this article makes is that a lot of people might have right here. If you check one or two of these boxes, they don't call it autism. They call it something else. So for autism to sort of cross that threshold, not that it's a strict line, you kind of have to be affected by all of these things. I'm absolutely affected by all these things. Other than I'm really, really not clumsy. The opposite of clumsy. So neurotypicals can have issues. This is not to exclude, I'm not trying to hog all the psychological disorders. Am I still recording? God, I would be devastated if I wasn't. When you're masking, you're neurotypical, right? And let's say we're on a mountain. Okay, you all live on this one side. 49 out of 50 people live on one side of the mountain. When you mask, you got to put on your wooden clogs, muss up your hobbit hair. They don't wear shoes. I know. Don't get too weird about the science behind all this. And you got to wander down the path a little bit to your work mask, right? Put on your mask and go to work. Maybe you hate your boss. Maybe you're tired of pretending to laugh at the boss's stupid jokes. Maybe your manager's a dick. Maybe you have fun at work. Who knows? But you're a little bit different at work than you are at home. And then you got to wander back down the path. Wave to the old man who's sweeping his thing. Say hi to the weed guy growing weed for everybody for the party coming up. You're not traveling very far, right? You're staying on the same side of the mountain. Oh, I'm asking. Okay, and it doesn't wear you out necessarily the same. Certainly, it can. For some of you, it very much might. For an autistic person masking, it is like 1 out of 50 people are on the other side of the mountain. And our travel, our journey, our trek, we get assaulted by a big spider queen. She rolls us up into a bundle. Some chubby guy who's really strong comes by and carries us and throws our jewelry into an ocean of fire. That's what happens for autistic people. And then we got to cross over the top of the mountain or through a pass. They call that. That's when it's not actually the top. And down to the other side. And now we're just like the neurotypicals. Well, hey, good one, boss. Very good joke. Yeah, well, man, yeah, geez. Oh, new Lexus. That's fun. Cool, great. But buying shit with other people's value. Wow, capitalism's great. So our journey towards the masking, towards the point, towards the destination is so much bigger. And we tend to just stay over there too. That's sort of part of it as far as like the exhaustion, but it's still taxing. It's still being out of your environment, out of your home. And when you don't know you're autistic, you don't even know how to set up your own environment to be like comfortable and safe for you. You know what I'm saying? That's part of why this cat's driving me so fucking crazy. Because she deserves somebody who wants her to be awake. She's such a nice cat. So she's in the closet right now. It's a huge difference from neurotypical masking to autistic masking, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to be like claiming that you're not struggling in your own way, but as I've been living in these last few years, though, I've trying to realize or just learning I was autistic and then realizing that these last few years was basically me tripping over the parts of my mask as they were falling to the feet, to the ground along amongst my feet. I've been hitting these meltdowns and these energy. Like I had this thing where I was, I guess it'll be 2 summers ago coming up. I broke down in front of my roommate sobbing. And then I couldn't breathe for a little while. I was like, I wasn't hyperventilating. I just was struggling to get air in. And it was really weird and freaky. And I was having like this kind of overwhelming, persistent anxiety kind of, I'd call it an anxiety attack, but it was like an anxiety war. Like it was like a sustained attack of some kind. And I went home, I called my dad. I was like, I cried on the phone. I said, fuck. I told her, I went home just to try something different. My dad paid for the ticket. I haven't been able to afford a flight in forever. And I'm very lucky to have my dad. And I was, I could tell I was changed. I was unable to like stop myself from saying, this is going to sound very weird, but like from saying like, I don't care. So much of what people tell you, I just don't care. Like you have to pretend to care. The small talky kind of stuff in the world. And I remember I caught myself just like, because it's like nails on a chalkboard doesn't begin to describe it. It's more like the nails on your brain. And it's just like, why? And I remember catching myself being like, I don't care. Like my mouth couldn't hold it in. I was like, I don't care. I don't know if that person heard me or not. I don't remember what that was. But I was also like with my mother, my stepmom too. I was behaving very weirdly. And I was just like, if anybody mentioned anything of their emotion or some sort of thing that had an emotional heft to it, I would like be like, I don't know. I was like, this was a guy in severe autistic burnout who had no idea what autism was. It's like having cancer and you'd never heard of cancer. But it's also like far beyond that, I would say, because it's about your core existence, the way your mind works, the way your brain is wired up. And I was in a really severely stressed out place there, and I was home, and that trip actually ended up there being some confusion regarding my stepmother, and it wound up I had to. Yeah, that was a bad weekend. And the lights all really sensitive. I've always been kind of sensitive. I've always preferred nice, cool lighting in a room, and had a notion of it. I've always been the guy who puts his fingers in his ears when a truck goes by. Although these days, like the simplest noises can be overwhelming me. Sensory overload, so easy. And that was so. I discovered I was autistic about 10 months after that. And so I'm on my phone in bed, and I think we'll end it here. We'll end it with my story about the NLRB. I do have stuff I want to say, but I'm not. Maybe we'll do that as a separate thing because it's relates to the Young Turks actually. And NDAs signed. Are you supposed to keep quiet or not? I'm not a person who likes to keep quiet. So I'm on my phone in bed and I Google neurodivergent. Okay, means that instead of saying there's something wrong with that person, we'll say that the person's brain works differently. I like that. That helps me. I'm a person whose brain works differently. I related to all the depression and stuff. And it lists the different things. Schizophrenia, depression, and then there's the word autism. And I'm hyper aware. I imagine my mind is like a library. And this is your mind too, everybody's. This big, vast library building. Got those like sturdy metal shelves, beige or whatever color that might be, that ugly office beige or maybe office gray, dystopian gray, capitalist gray, you might say. But libraries, I love libraries. I think libraries are one of I think the Missouri is trying to defund all their libraries even more, and they're trying to take books away. And libraries are one of the most fabulous parts of our society. One of the few examples of what a utopian socialist world might even have something at all similar to, that we still somehow have around, that we don't connect to the community empowerment that it illustrates, so that we could have more of that. And anyway, and I'm reading all my books on my library app in the California Public Library. It's a really great app called Libby that lets you access all the books straight up. And my library for Premiere Pro, since I've been doing video editing in Premiere Pro for 15 years, is very full. There's parts of it I know. I don't actually have all the information, but it's mostly pretty full. I'm pretty darn good at that. My library for stand-up comedy stuff, since that's a big thing in my life that I was involved with quite a lot. Although I'm not like a guy who watches a lot of stand-up. So there's parts of that library, that section, that have empty shelves, but it's pretty full too. My whatever else, pick your thing. I'm really good at folding fitted sheets. Okay, I got a nice little workbook in my library about how to fold a fitted sheet. Woodworking, I have a pretty well, but that's an amazingly wide breadth of information there. There's so much stuff I don't know that I hope to fill out too. Wood species and techniques and all kinds of crap. I'm a very good problem solver, and partly why I'm sure like one trait of some autistic folks is like the systemizing, the way their brains can like link all these things together. I do that so thoroughly and involuntarily too. So I knew about my autism library. Was like, okay, well, I just checked in on that little chunk of my vast of the shelving in my library, and I was like, well, I don't really know what it is. I think I know what it is, but I know that that's not based on any actual research. It's not based on any recent reading or on any reading ever. I think I might have seen some TV something here and there, maybe in the 90s. Like I just have this like sort of vague impression that it's like a person who's probably not communicating or who has impulse control problems and who probably is makes parenting that person a real big challenge. I remember wondering what in the environment is causing it, and hopefully we can figure out what's causing it, autism in the environment. That's still something that I think people would like some answers to. Not that it's sourcing directly from environmental factors, but it bakes in the womb. It's a 3D printer. It's like it all happens there in the biological 3D printer. And I don't think it's an absurd notion to think that it might be influenced by something in the environment that affects the way that body is gestating a baby. But it's also been around for a long time. Some historical figures they think were autistic. Einstein was known to have light sensitivities. Nikolai Tesla was likely, but those are the sort of the savant extremes, sort of that kind. It's an interesting Google though. Give a Google to that. Not that there's any definitive answers. There's the one article I'm thinking of. They were very clear about like these are just guesses. These are people have differences of agreement. We just have some indications that these people may have. You know, they were like saying this guy was definitely. It's an inappropriate thing to diagnose that way. But I had no idea that Einstein might have been autistic. That's just a side point. So my library of autism was this kind of assumption, and it's very boilerplate. Probably a white boy. Not that I had excluded other people from the idea at all. I just don't think like that. That didn't make any sense to me. But autism sidebar here was in the 90s when it sort of was finally elevated to something that researchers and doctors and people were dealing with was, you'll be surprised to hear this, was prioritized in upper middle class white boys. Shocker, isn't it? White supremacist society built around upholding the supremacy of one male-rooted gender, one dominant profile of a person over all others was the prioritized notion, because families that the way autism, they say, presents in girls is actually the way society perceives girls based on gender differentiation because of our fucked up culture and our antiquated and very much in need of evolving perceptions about what gender means and what gender roles are supposed to be. So it's not that it presents differently. But of course, autism presents differently in different profiles, but it's not around gender. It is actually more common in people in the queer space, the non-binary, the LGBT world too. I think I feel very like easily, not to say rooted, but like I'm a masculine fellow. Most people wouldn't think of me as, but I've always been uncomfortably like this whole male bullshit. Like, God, the way men are, they're so fucking exhausting. I've always resonated better with females, with women, with feminine energy too. You know, I don't know. It's always kind of felt much more kind of easier waters for me to navigate. I could bro it out, maybe not these days, but you know, I'm 6'3", I'm overweight now, 240 pounds of pure hardcore, somewhat fat. I've been not working out, but I've been trying. My forearms are getting strong. Why am I rambling about all that gender shit? But I imagine it's also kind of why my politics are very much about, it's just like, what the fuck? We're all trapped on this planet together. Who gives a shit if someone doesn't fit into your stupid categories? Leave them the fuck alone. Trust them. Let their experience inform your knowledge of their experience by trusting them when they say that they are, need help or marginal, all the other things. So anyway, in the 90s, that's what they thought. And so there's this perception that is going away finally, but it's still out there, that autism occurs in boys at a rate 4 times more than girls. So back to my empty library. I had just thought it was a problematic kid who seemed like a giant pain in the ass to have to parent. And hopefully that we finally get a sense for what's causing it, so that we don't have to burden more families with this terrible thing. But I hadn't thought about that. It's not like I had an opinion. I just had this kind of ignorant assumption that was there, that I knew was there. And at one point, but it's also, I don't run around with parents. I don't hang out with people much. I don't hang out with parents at all. So it's not like, so I know if you're a parent, you might have had conversations with other parents or whatever, doing research, blah, 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 where you might be on guard or might be looking for, traits of autism, depending on the kind of parent you are, obviously, looking for other things that you might keep an eye out for your child. None of that was in my world. My dad did once mention that a family friend had perhaps one of their kids might be autistic or something. And I just remember him saying that and me being like, oh, okay. All right. Well, look, there's a McDonald's up ahead. Let's stop there. Like nothing like of any importance to me. I was just like, oh God, I hope they work it out. I don't know. So that was all I really knew. I mean, I literally had nothing in my world about autism. That's why it was such a fucking stunning thing. Some people suspect it for years, or some people have know somebody who's autistic, or something or other, where they have an exposure to it. But I was just coming completely just out of curiosity, and I'm like, okay, there's autism. I don't really know what it is. Let me actually Google it. I'll Google autism for the first time in my life, and I did, and I read an article, and I don't remember which link I found or whatever, but within like a couple of sentences, I was like, wow, this is talking about brains and people's brains that are a little bit different and work too much and do and activate too fast. My brain goes full speed the moment I wake up. It's annoying. It's always been annoying. People who have social issues over their lives. I'm like, yeah, okay, wow, that's I didn't realize that was it. People who have compulsive thinking too, like that's part of it. I think there was another one I was there just thinking of. People who are often like very creative too, like creativity is a major part. Not that all autistics are necessarily creative, but like it comes with a brain that is hyperactive like that. And as I'm reading this article, though, I'm just like blown away. I mean, I start just within a couple paragraphs. I'm like, this is exactly me. This is like 95% describing me in the ranges of it too, and like the way it's. And I couldn't believe it. I was just blown. It was stunning. It was so amazing. It was like, I don't know if this makes any sense. Don't worry. These tears are normal. That's fine. You're going to be okay. I promise. But it's like, and I hate to give free advertising to Disney, but it's not like this is going to affect their profits. Like it or not, they are a major cultural institution in our world. But it's like I was like in a costume my whole life. It's like I was one of the characters in a Disney outfit. It's a good metaphor for the mask too. I was Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse. I was Minnie Mouse. Pretty pink dress, polka dots, a horrifying permanent smile. And but it was like being one of those characters, not in a world of nothing else, and not having any idea that there's other characters in the park. And suddenly, like, there's this veil, like the walls, like I can picture it, like shimmering walls, like in a Star Trek special effect, just like, and then like falling or like kind of disappearing, and a whole world opened up. There's other Minnie Mouses. There's other people in costumes. There's other people like me. But I'd never experienced that before in my entire life up until that moment. Fuck. And I read a few more articles that night, and I didn't just decide immediately that I was going to start talking about this. So, I knew I was like very certain, but I'm also highly skeptical in like a healthy, what I hope is a healthy way. I consider myself persuadable, but carefully, I think in terms of probabilities and nuance. You might have noticed that over time, although I can also be very assertive and absolute with some of the things I say, but I'm always thinking in terms of like probabilities. I'm very comfortable with unknowns. I don't need to just make up some bullshit because I don't have the full story, which so many people seem to be like that. But discovering that, finding out with only just to satisfy a little curiosity in the moment, and then realizing that this is a thing that actually is about me and my entire life and my entire being, and that there's other people, and there's research, and there's information. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of misunderstanding. I guess there's this organization called Autism Speaks, which is like a autism organization. They want to eradicate it. They're trying to like get, they sort of appeal to the parents who are pissed off that their children are autistic and want to find a solution and hold somebody accountable. Like I keep seeing in my reading on the internet and on Twitter, the hashtag actually autistic and stuff. I check on that sometimes. But people in the autism world are like hate this organization, Autism Speaks. So there's a range of discourse, let's just say. Just like there's this whole fucking world that gives me a chance of being able to communicate about my brain. If I had this entire podcast I've just done, and I didn't mention autism, I just talked about all these ways my brain functions. So you probably might hear it go, well, that sounds like autism. But like, it gives me the tool. It makes it okay for me to put my face on camera and cry a little bit as I'm telling you the story. I didn't have that before. And it gives me a chance of being somewhat understood. And I mean, that's why it's like, not knowing was so brutal, so fucking brutal to not know. These are gentle tears. I'm just trying to keep it light. I could really let it go if I wanted to. This is also why I'm unemployable. Nobody wants the crying guy around. Even if they care, even if they're sensitive to it. There's a reason you feel weird when someone cries, because you're supposed to. That's communication. You don't exist by yourself. You didn't evolve as a solo animal. You evolve. Your construct is one of a matrix of other people's perceptions and feelings. If you're at a restaurant, picture a nice restaurant. Put it in your head. You're at Applebee's. They got Jamaican jerk chicken night. Okay, it's Thursday night. A group of strippers are fueling up. Okay, it's 7 p.m. They're fueling up on jerk chicken, getting ready for their shift. There's one employee, and their foot's stuck in the toilet, so they're stomping around the place with a toilet on their foot. Just a typical night at Applebee's. Your favorite restaurant. Ambiance. And it's busy, but you can kind of hear, and then you hear are you going to be relaxed with that noise in the background? You can't ignore that. If you can ignore that, there's something really that's sociopathic. That's like, I'm the opposite of a sociopath is what I write in that thing. I am like the very, very extreme opposite of a sociopath. I have multiple emotion generators in me. I almost think of it as having like multiple consciousness disorder. It feels like sometimes with the hyper empathy. And I don't know where empathy lives. I can't tell if I have my own innate empathy or if my empathy is also engaged, or if I also have centers of empathy that are up in my imagination. I think imagination is far more than just like a bunch of children, playing with cutout boards, construction paper, and glitter. That's my idea of creativity. Imagination is not just like, Willy Wonka. Oh my God, a popsicle or a bubble gum in a tree. That's imagination. It's the core of your ability to understand a story. If I tell you about a fight I saw in the Target bathroom, okay, the two people from the competing mannequin head factories ran into each other in the Target bathroom. Basically, the plot of Duel, starring Harvey Keitel, if you're familiar with cinema history, as I am. You just imagined a bunch of shit happening in a Target bathroom. That's your fucking imagination at work. That's how that works. The imagination is there. It's so much part of who you are. It's part of it's the receptor of language. It's what makes communication possible. That's why human beings are so rooted in storytelling. That's why we have a hard time understanding complex systems of politics and culture and the way these things are all interrelated. I don't seem to have a hard time understanding all of it, or at least I perceive that I have a grasp on it. But it's not intuitive to think of things in terms of systems. It is intuitive to think of things in terms of imagined stories, boiled down usually to like one or two singular individuals. We see it's the hero's journey. It's the way politics takes advantage of that, because we assign, like, I don't know if to say heroic, but we assign main character to these figures. Donald Trump is like just this sort of main character in the dull imaginations of his supporters. And I think that's fairly normal. So I think often center around a singular individual. If that person can embody something good, maybe a healthy kind of community or something like that. That's good, but it's usually like we have to simplify things down. The world is way more nuanced and complicated than most brains can kind of handle. And I don't think I have a full grasp of it, but I feel like I've always sort of been like, marinating in that kind of thing more than other people are. That's definitely true. How did I get off on that imagination thing? Damn it. I don't remember. Where does empathy live? But I don't even know how I got to that one either. But like I don't know if my empathy works in a way where my imagination imagines empathy, or my imagination imagines, and then that sends like a work order down to my own innate empathy generator. I don't know which one of those. Those are my two theories, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, I can imagine myself into some like heavy emotions and feelings. Oh, that's right. People don't want to be around crying because you're supposed to care about someone who's upset. You're a social being. You sit around social behavior. As much as it's great as work for home is, and I'm all for workers having what is best for them, and generally that means less exposure to their evil bosses. There is a loss to working from home, and the fact that you're not experiencing the social notions that sometimes come with the group being around groups. Setting aside all the fucked up ways our modern work environment is terrible for human beings, and the utopian society I would build would involve a lot of group efforts, but it would be like meaningful stuff. We wouldn't just be producing widgets so that our scumbag bosses can buy Nazi memorabilia and buy Supreme Court justices, or be hypocrite union busters like Cenk Uygur, toiling away for some psycho's ambitions. So we need those groups. We need those things. And setting aside of the work stuff, but like, religion taps into your need for community. Everything taps into all the insecurities that are the foundation of modern society. The reason capitalism works is because it sustains a level of insecurity, of the absence of the nutrient of community that is necessary for a human to actually flourish. And so the weakness that emerges from all that is taken advantage of in the form of your boss having more leverage over you when it comes time to make you do stuff or negotiate wages, basically power. It all just comes down to leverage over people using intentional stress to impose power on them. But I would be disruptive if not that I would sit, and I'm not like breaking out into tears. I'm talking about really heavy shit right here. So I'm having these feelings, but I've been on the phone I'm dealing with some legal thing right now. And like, someone who I was talking to, I warned them. I was like, I might cry. I just want you to know that I might cry right now. I might cry at some point during this conversation. I'm learning to do that. I'm learning to be like, I have a thing. And I told him about autism. He was cool, and I did cry during that. But that's among the reasons why I'm unemployable, because I can't be the person at a job who's crying, even if it's like, well, there goes the autism guy crying over there. He says it's fine and we trust him, so we're probably cool with it. But it's still, that's disruptive. And it's embarrassing a little bit. I shouldn't have to feel embarrassment, but I do. Even beyond that, though, it's the unemployable thing. Is the risks are a major reason. I couldn't do full-time video editing. That's also kind of rough on your hands. Not the same degree as woodworking or doing like, I push a door open in the wrong way and it's horrible. It's real painful. The primary reasons I can't do the work is that my light and noise sensitivities. Honestly, that's why I need support on Patreon to do the Unemployable show, which I'm going to record this week at some point. Is the light and noise sensitivity? I can't. It's not just like, okay, that's a little bright, I should put on sunglasses. It's like, oh my God, that beeping, or that, oh my God, that little light over there in the corner of the room, I'm hyper fixated on it. I need to look away. I can't. Now my anxiety is flooding. Now I can't go. Okay, now I need to take 20 minutes to try to get that, to try to like fight off because what happens with me, chapter title, or maybe another book, but this is also not a very creative metaphor, is my brain feels like, what's behind door number 1, door number 2, door number 3 kind of setup. Like, oh, 3 garage doors. Oh my God. Is it a washer and dryer? Is it a wife? Is it 2 wives? Those are the three ways of getting your laundry done. I'm thinking of a 70s talk show for some reason. My brain is like, I'm in a circle of those, like a dozen of them, 24 if you want, 18 if that's an easier number for you. I'm surrounded by those doors, but they're cages, and there's tigers in each one. There's a fucking mean ass tiger in each one. And I get these compulsive thoughts, and I can tell. And this is how I've gotten, this is me handling it, by the way. This is how I've learned since I've discovered I was autistic, that I have more control than I thought I did. Or, it's, we aren't powerless, but it's, I don't know if I hear it, I feel it, I sense it. Somehow I can tell the tiger has gotten the door open a little bit. That's the compulsive thought starting to come out, where I'm going to suddenly have a 5-minute argument screaming at somebody in my bathroom who's not really there because I'm lost in my imagination. Or some old memory where I felt awkward and weird because I constantly go over things I said that I thought might be, or emailing somebody, and oh shit, did I say the wrong thing? And then that kind of thinking is compulsive. And so for me, it's like the tigers are trying to get out. So I spend all day long closing tiger cages. So I go over, no, and I have to I literally have to just shake it off in my head. I'd be like, no, don't do that, Hank. Don't do that. Don't, no. And not that I have the exact technique, but the tigers are trying to get out. And some days, and I have a tiger living in my room now, which is why I need somebody to take this cat off my hands. She's a wonderful cat, but fuck, I am not a cat guy. I wouldn't be able to handle it. Is that, it's extra variables. I just can't handle all the variablesness of the cat. I don't know what she's asking for when she meows at me. Speak English. Speak some fucking English. Or even if she just had eyebrows, it'd be easier. But I feel the compulsion start. And right when I wake up too, that's like 4 tiger cages are just like, ha, we're getting out. And I'm like, no, I have to really settle myself down. And I try not to look at my phone. Been failing at that a little bit lately, but I'm opening up a book, reading my Kindle is so much healthier right first thing in the morning. Meditation was a big help too. I need to do that a lot more. So I'm caging tigers constantly. And what happens when the beeping or something, like on my walk to Chipotle, there was such a brightness. It was a sunny day, but I walked past a driveway that was like the sidewalk is kind of like a beigeish yellowish sidewalk color, concrete. But the driveway was like a gray white, like a closer to white concrete. And I just remember looking at the concrete and going like, oh, and like recoiling. I didn't have my sunglasses on. I should have. And not that one particularly said it, but then I get to Chipotle and the fucking music was so loud. I hate loud music at places. Drives me crazy. It's going to be like one reason. If I date somebody, it's going to be like, how about we just watch The Good Place and give each other hand jobs and make homemade pizza? Does that sound fun? Come on. I am fun to date, by the way. I'm a homebody. All right. The brightness of that was just so painful. And then to deal with the kind of response to that, because it's linked to my anxiety. Then I have to slow breathe to calm down from being in this overwhelming environment, which is outdoors. And then in the store, the fucking music was just driving me crazy. And even just hearing people talking and just like kind of getting in my head. So it sort of builds on itself. And it'll mean I was so exhausted. I got home and it took me like an hour to just like kind of like get myself back to a place where I could be okay with that, because my brain will hold on to it. And the tigers are harder to cage when I'm doing that. You know what I'm saying? So like the part of controlling the sensory inputs is a major way that I have the energy to go close the tiger cages, because sometimes the tigers get out. My mom fucked me up real bad. Got to finish that sentence. When she told me a story about how my brother called sobbing and crying, and she was worried that something, but he was pranking her. It was a joke. He was kidding. That's but she didn't tell me he was kidding until she got to the part of the story where he was kidding, because that's how you would tell a story. And it really upset me, because I expect her to know better by now. Even though it's hard for older folks to, anybody, and there needs to be more materials for parents of diagnosis. That's another book project I think would be really great. Maybe as a collaborative thing with other autistic writers, maybe. Like, how do we need a book for our parents? The idea, the joke title I have so far is, so you had an autistic baby 40 years ago or something like that. I don't know. that's not great. But she wasn't trying to set me off or wasn't trying to, and I'm kind of like I'm sort of a landmine or a minefield around my mom because my parents have this like immense power to dialed in on my soul and my body more than other people because they're my parents and my mom especially. But like telling me about my brother calling her, in agonizing discomfort, sobbing and crying. He was joking about Trump being indicted is what he was kidding around about. And the way you would tell that story is you would try to pick the person who's receiving the story, go on the same emotional journey that you went on so that the surprise works. You don't just say, oh yeah, he surprised me. And then you start the story. You don't say, oh, he pranked me and then start the story. She was just doing normal fucking neurotypical communication. But it rocked me, man. It was like she just grabbed a couple tiger cages and just flipped them wide open. And when the tigers get out, it's a much harder thing for me to go chase them down and try to put it all back together. And I got upset at her. I was like, what are you doing? And I was literally like, it's so hard for her. It's so hard for people because it's because it's a strange thing to ask somebody to stop before they communicate the way that they communicate intuitively. But I've been telling her for a couple of years, even before I knew I was autistic, I was trying to get her to not do emotional stuff with me because we have a dynamic that is not, I wouldn't describe it as very healthy. It's healthier than it's ever been, I would say, but it's still not very healthy. Through therapy and stuff, I've come to understand how you're not, even as an adult child, I'm not supposed to be so involved. Not that I get involved, but like leave out the emotional shit, would you? For God's sakes. It's like it's almost like an allergy. Like I have an allergy. It's like an allergic response. It's not as easy as just like, oh, I didn't mean to cross the line. All right, okay, we'll move on. It's like, no, the tiger's out now. There's no it's not like an easy thing. Come on, boy, get back in there. Oh, okay. No, this thing is snarling. It's trying to open other cages. It's swiping mannequin heads. ScarredMannequinHeads.com, everybody. ScarredMannequinHeads.com. What if that was like, and this is to launch my new brand of health drinks. But you really can't sell it. I should sell something that takes the lead out of your body, but I'll just lie. It's not true. Just lie and make a lot of money. It'll be nice. Money is the god of our world. It creates all these incentives for people to be the worst people in the world. And usually that means capitalism. Yeah, so like this story about my brother being distraught on the phone just set off worries about my nephews being injured or killed or him having some major problems or his family, whatever. So like, it's also like a thing I need to insist on an accommodation would be like, not that it's like a prank, but it's like, don't hit me with some emotionally heavy stuff. If you're going to start with the punchline, tell me it's a prank first. Just, oh yeah. Your brother made me laugh because he really got me with this good prank. And then you tell me the story and I'm not going to take it out. The tigers are going to stay in the cage. Why am I going on so much about that? I think that's pretty much it. Right? So the learning, I knew it. I mean, I felt it right away, but then I read a bunch of articles, tons of Reddit threads, tons of, listened to a bunch of podcasts. I've only listened to a book called Unmasking Autism by Devin Price. It was a recommended book on a Reddit thread. I need to find some more books. So there's lots of autism books that I'm interested in reading. So I have no doubts. I'm not diagnosed formally. It's actually that's a whole nother topic, but it's a kind of a fraught process, especially in America. It costs thousands of dollars. It can also mean discrimination. There's immigration issues regarding autistic diagnoses and if you're allowed to like move to other countries. There's a lot of weird stuff going on too in the kind of autism space that is fascinating. And I want to be part of it, but I'm also at a point where I have to get my basics down right, honestly. Like I can't just be like, all right, now I'm doing autism advocacy and defense and activism. Like I don't have my shit together. I don't have money. I don't have money for fucking, I have money enough only because my roommate's cool with me taking on some of this rent stuff or rent debt, basically. And that's another reason I need support on Patreon is I need to make it okay. I have that sacred obligation to make it okay because he's really helped me. He's been there for me. I was there for, not that it's a trade, but like, we're like brothers, kind of like, I think we're each other's closest, emergency contact in Los Angeles. he had his big heart surgery, and like he needed help for that. I wish he was better at taking help because I was ready to help him a lot more than he is. As I would have bathed him. I would have lapped my tongue across his wounds to remove the humors, the negative humors causing pain. So, all right, wow, hour and 43. God fucking damn it! I wanted to do this for an hour. I said I was going to stop at like 109. It's funny. Why did I slam that down? I'm not really a slammer downer kind of guy. Yeah. So the only final thing I'm just going to mention is that just because I said I would, maybe I'll bring this up in another one. Is that the NLRB ruled, although I don't know if it's like a formal thing, but they retroactively voided NDAs, which is great. It was a memo from March 24th. Is that on screen? Yeah. So, yeah. So when TYT wanted me to, when they were firing me, they wanted me to sign an NDA that in order to get my severance, which I thought was such fucking bullshit. I was just like, really? You'll sue me if I talk about, like, and the NDA has a part that says like you're not allowed to mention there's an NDA. So if someone asks about it, I would be required to lie. This is crazy. And so anyway, maybe we'll get back into these articles at some point. So I did not get my severance from TYT as I should have. But good to see this. So this is like one of those things that differences between Republicans and Democrats. Democrats are very much part of the evil empire, but you can guarantee that no Republican appointed person would ever do anything close to this. In fact, Trump rescinded a bunch of NLRB stuff, and they will again. So there are differences there. But yeah, all right. You've heard this enough. If you've already decided to help me out, go to Patreon. That's fine. It's still new. If you're hearing this, more than likely people are going to hear this far in the past or far in the future from now. This is in your past. Hope I didn't make you too uncomfortable. I hope you learned something. I hope you gained some patience with people who are autistic, or maybe the autistic people who you've met in your life and those around them. It's not an easy thing necessarily for people around them. That's why awareness and education and understanding is actually a healthy thing for others, for those in the orbits around it too, because we're all connected. We're all dialed in on each other. And yeah, I do want to do some like political commentary crap because it does feel kind of comfortable. It's not like I was faking it before that I cared about it or anything. So, but it also feels like too much to sort of try to put out specific videos. But I think if I can fall into a production flow, I might be able to make that work. I have time. I do have the time. My energy levels are all over the place, but I do have the time. And I'm using DaVinci to do editing now. I am trying to want to offer Premiere Pro lessons to people. That's something I'll talk about the next time. But I've been learning how to use DaVinci Resolve because Premiere sucks and Adobe is a ripoff and a shitty company. So expanding my skills and trying to build out this whole endeavor, this whole corner. I filmed a thing that I'm going to put on Patreon about like a behind the scenes process of cleaning up this corner. I don't know if that's interesting or not, but I'll take out the boring parts. And that's it. I hope you're willing and able to help. If not, don't stress about that. Even if you just click the like and subscribe button or follow on iTunes. I don't know, leave a review, something like that. Maybe help out your autistic buddy. That'll be cool. There's another thing I want to talk about, not right now, but like the autistic card. Like that's a book idea or book topic. It would be interesting. Like I feel like I worry that by talking about it, people are going to be like, well, you're just playing the autistic card. It's like, well, yeah, it's like literally impossible not to, but it's also not an appropriate thing. I can use an excuse to be a dick or something like that. Not that that's what autistic people do, but yeah. Anyway, that's a side note. So I'm blinding myself with this construction light for your benefit right now. So you can see my glorious face. Check out my fading beard. That's so bad. I mean, this is bad for anybody. Here, I'll put my coffee in front of it. Oh, that's better. Thank you. It's nice to be back. Thank you. Help. This is really what I'm just doing is help, please, dear God, please help me. But I'm gonna try to earn it by making shows and videos and stuff. So, all right. And eventually I want to send out woodworking products. Look at all this cool shit. See this cool candle holder? I don't have no idea. Look at that. That's rad as hell, man. I haven't even finished it yet. It needs oil, and I need to put a little disc of epoxy in the bottom of it. That's like my little touch, little color below the flame. And all right, fuck Jesus. Okay, turn it off. All right. See you later. Take care of yourself. Bye. Be good. Bye.